Welcome back to another news video. This week, we're talking about the positive release of Doom: The Dark Ages, as well as some hot drama around Bungie's art team stealing art again. Plus, we've got a bonus round covering the Grand Theft Auto 6 latest trailer and delay, Valve responding to leaks, and a small but big story for one of my other favorite shooters, Quake. Wow, this has been a busy week for me. If you haven't noticed, this will be my third video for this week. If you like Doom as much as I do, well, I just couldn't help myself to talk about it. All news articles will be sourced down in the description below. Like, sub, do all the YouTube stuff. Let's get into it. So I've been loving Doom: The Dark Ages, and the game just came out on the 15th. For those who pre-ordered, they got to play 2 days early. And things are looking pretty positive. Metacritic score for the game currently sits at an 84, which is generally positive, while Steam user reviews are sitting at a very positive. The critics are praising its brutal combat as well as its new shield being an excellent addition to the arsenal for the Slayer. Additionally, the shift of focus leaning more on melee and parrying is getting a lot of praise. That said, there's still plenty of shooting, and the guns are fun to use with all sorts of upgrade features that enhance the gameplay. Meanwhile, the parts of the game that feature the Atlan mech as well as the dragon are sort of getting mixed reception. But more importantly, the maps are much larger and more expansive, and this helps cater in the gameplay playing out more horizontally as opposed to the gameplay from Doom Eternal, which had a very vertical focused sort of movement mechanic to it, with its double jumping, using monkey bars to gain more height in the air, and double dashing midair as well. It gets pretty crazy. And another thing that's kind of shifted in Doom: The Dark Ages is the way that it tells its story. In the prior two Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal games, story was mostly hidden behind codexes that you would find throughout the levels. And most people didn't really read them. Those that were curious about the lore, they would dig into them and read them, and there's plenty of YouTube videos out there that you can find where they do deep lore dives into the world of Doom. In Doom: The Dark Ages, the developers, I think, picked up on that, and so they decided to retell the stories from those codex entries in this prequel, essentially. And they do it in these bombastic cinematics that play usually in the beginning and at the end of every level. At least from my experience, that's what I've noticed. Occasionally you get like a very small cinematic mid-level if something epic happens. But these cinematics, they're all done in-game, rendered in-engine, and they don't take you out of the experience for too long. And it feels really good to not only experience it and watch it, but to tease it up to the next thing that you're gonna do. More than likely, rip and tearing through more demons again. And last but not least, we can't forget about the graphics. It's been a long tradition for id Software to innovate on technologies for video games and the game engines. And they still do that to this day. It's quite amazing. While some gamers on older hardware are experiencing some pains with the required ray tracing features of the game is actually pretty well optimized. I would highly suggest checking out the Digital Foundry videos. They covered Doom: The Dark Ages on all platforms, the consoles including PC. And they even have some suggestions for settings that you can set to get the most optimal experience. I'll link their videos down in the description below for you guys to check out after this one. Anyhow, the graphics are beautiful and the game runs extremely smooth, and that's extremely important for a Doom game. They're known to be fast-paced with high action, lots of gore, explosions, and to top it off, the strong medieval demonic sort of vibe of this game is top-notch. It is just breathtaking, really. With all these positives, though, there has been some gripes. I did kind of mention the ray tracing requirements of the game. That's sort of a negative for anyone on older hardware. But another thing is that the physical editions of Doom: The Dark Ages, the discs themselves don't really carry much data on them. It's angered a lot of physical media enthusiasts that they're purchasing this physical copy of the game expecting the full install to be on the disc, but instead they pop the disc into their console. They're now downloading a 60 to 80 gigabyte video game over the internet. All in all, despite the negatives that I've mentioned, the game is doing extremely well. People are ranting and raving over the new sort of take on the Doom experience, and for me personally, I would highly recommend it actually. Once I'm done making this video, I'm gonna be hopping back into that world and working towards finishing the game. Okay, I can't guarantee I won't be talking about Doom again in the near future, but let's move on to the next news story. Once again, Bungie artists are stealing art again. A concept artist on Twitter recently made a post, and she goes by Anti-Real. She's publicly accused Bungie of stealing her art, and she's posted many pictures that show side-by-side comparisons of her art style and graphics that she's made and where it's been used within the current Marathon Alpha. Unfortunately, it is a one-to-one match. These Bungie artists didn't really even try to hide it or mask it in any way. What's unfortunate too is that Anti-Real has voiced her frustration with Bungie and their artists and designers, basically making statements that large companies scour the internet for artists' work to use in mood boards and use their designs quite blatantly in their games. Personal anecdote here, as someone who's worked in the games industry as an artist, creating mood boards is an essential part in developing your work or giving it direction, but you are usually not supposed to make a one-to-one representation of another person's artwork. That's why it's called a mood board. It's not called a copy board. You're supposed to source it, look at it, be inspired by it, and try and create something that's, sort of similar in style. You're not trying to copy it, You're using your mood board for inspiration and also sort of like a guiding star in your works that you're creating. Anyhow, the allegations, they've garnered a huge amount of support from other fellow artists as well as gamers and people who are involved in the art communities, and many of them are criticizing Bungie for what they did. So of course Bungie has acknowledged her statements, and they are currently looking into the matter, doing an investigation within their art teams and their studio departments. Unfortunately, this situation really highlights sort of the ongoing ethical concerns regarding the use of artists' work in video games that aren't part of the team. Bungie has done this before. This is actually a repeating offender for them. I believe it was something to do with these Destiny 2 Nerf guns last year. Unfortunately, the design was copied from another artist that wasn't hired to work on that project. And I think even a while back, this was for the last Uncharted game, Naughty Dog got into some heat because an artist's work was used in a painting in one of the levels without their permission. So that's all we have for this story. Bungie's currently under investigations. We'll have to wait and see what the potential outcome of this is. I believe in the situation with the Nerf gun designs, they actually compensated that artist. Here's hoping that Anti-Real maybe receives some fair compensation for this whole fiasco. All right, that wraps up our main news stories for the week, but hang tight because we're about to go into the bonus round with some quick fire news. And also, if you're enjoying this video, consider subscribing to my channel. And while you're down there, hit that like button. Your support is greatly appreciated. So in advance, thank you. So Rockstar Games released trailer number 2 for Grand Theft Auto 6 last week. And I missed my news video last week, so I had to talk about it today. The trailer heavily featured Vice City, and it is beautifully rendered with its colors and vibrant modern setting. We also got a little more of a proper introduction, and it was a bit intimate as well, I must say. Our main protagonists being Lucia and Jason, and they have a very prominent role in this story. The trailer offered some hints of gameplay, showing off some activities, vehicles, and the open world and different locations that you could potentially visit. And I gotta say that the visuals were impressive. It said that it was all running on a PlayStation 5, and that was shockingly amazing. I don't think I've seen a game look as good as Grand Theft Auto 6 does, at least in that style of art, something that's realistic and gritty. Just all the little details that they focused on. If you're paying attention, you'll notice. As with every Grand Theft Auto game, there are plenty of jokes and satirical takes on American culture. And in this one, they kind of showed off some modern social media trends and influencers. And yeah, it was nice to see all of this, especially getting more hints of like the narrative and what the characters' motivations are in the game. So the trailer came out last week, and unfortunately, just a few days prior to the trailer's release, Rockstar did announce a delay for Grand Theft Auto 6. So the release date moved from 2025 to May 26th of 2026. So we'll have to wait a bit longer. I don't think anybody was surprised by this delay. And watch, I guarantee that game devs and publishers are going to be scrambling to move and reschedule their release date. Move it as far away from Grand Theft Auto 6. So on to our next news story. This one comes from Windows Central. Reports came out of a leak that involved approximately 89 million Steam users' records being offered for sale. The reporting on this definitely stirred up a commotion, but it was not accurate, and Valve has made an official statement. They've essentially stated that there was no breach on Steam systems. The leaked data consisted of older text messages containing one-time codes and phone numbers, but these codes were only valid for 15 minutes, and they're not linked to Steam accounts, passwords, or payment information. Valve has advised that there's no action needed. You don't need to change your password or your phone numbers linked to your account. In addition, Valve has also recommended to use their Steam Mobile Authenticator for enhanced account security. If you want the full story for this, I've got a link down in the description under all my sources, and I'll also add that I use the Steam Mobile Authenticator. It's not a pain in the ass to use. It really does give you peace of mind in knowing that your account is secure. Alright, and for our last news story, all this talk about Doom, Doom this, Doom that. Doom is amazing and great. I love that series. But let's take a moment to recognize an amazing feat. The amazing first-person shooter Quake has been inducted into the Strong Museum's World Video Game Hall of Fame. Quake's co-creator John Romero hopped on Twitter to say that it's a huge honor for this game that came out back in 1996. Quake was revolutionary because of how fast it was, how quickly it was able to run, and really that's, no small feat for the team behind it, especially John Carmack with his engineering skills in creating amazing video game engines. Quake was also the fire that lit up the online multiplayer scene with starting up esports and pro gaming leagues. And let's not forget about modding. Quake had tons of mods, and many of these modders went off to work on major video games of the future. And the code behind Quake still continues to influence modern games. There's actually a lot of modern boomer shooters that are coming out that run on the Quake engine. Anyhow, Quake also joins GoldenEye 007, Defender, and Tamagotchi, oddly, in this 2025 Hall of Fame class. So congrats to Quake, as well as all of the original developers who worked on it. It wasn't easy, but through all the blood, sweat, and tears, you guys made a revolutionary video game. And that's a wrap for this week's news video. If you have any thoughts or comments you'd like to share in regards to any of these stories, leave a comment down below. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button, share it with your friends, and subscribe for more great gaming content. And if you're looking for more, check out this recommended video right here. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next one.